My name is Evie Litwok. I'm the Executive Director of Witness to Mass Incarceration and a formerly incarcerated Jewish lesbian. I was placed in solitary for writing an article about poor medical care. In the facility I was in, all 1,300 women were seen by one physician's assistant, and whether you had cancer, a cyst, a broken foot, or a headache, his diagnosis was the same. You're fat, walk on the track, and drink water. So when Miriam Hernandez walked in looking like she was going to die, he gave her the fat speech, and 2 weeks later, she died when her gallbladder burst. He could have performed a blood test. He could have done anything to test her situation, but he didn't. And I wrote an article about this. An hour after it was posted, I was arrested, shackled, and told I would stay in solitary for as long as they wanted to keep me, which could have been years, because I wrote about an officer. Solitary is a prison within a prison, and no matter what laws you think you're writing or what rules you think you're writing, it's run by a few people, and they do whatever they want to do. And that's true across this country. I was kept in solitary for 7 weeks, a month past my release date. I have never recovered physically, mentally, or emotionally from that experience. I was strip searched, given a t-shirt, shorts, underwear, a jumpsuit, and a thin blanket. The temperature was kept freezing. I had to wear all my clothes all the time, including the blanket. And when I asked the guard for a second blanket, I was 64 years old at the time I was in solitary. They knew I suffered from anemia. The answer was no. No blanket. To understand the gravity of the situation, I want each of you to imagine you being in your own bathroom at home. Lock the door. All you have is the toilet, and where your bath or shower is a metal bed, and there is no books, no computers, nothing for you to do, no telephone, no television, nothing. You have 3 choices in your bathroom. You can stand up, you can sit on the toilet, or you can lie on your metal bed and get crippled. The question I have for each of you is, do you really think you could sit in your own bathroom for 24 hours with... And I think the answer, as I cross this country and ask that question, I get maybe 3 people who are wise guys who say, I want to try it. And I say, sure, then I want to talk to you afterwards. I suffered from high blood pressure, vertigo, and migraines the day after I was put in solitary due to the fluorescent lights that are kept on all the time. It was 2 weeks before they took my blood pressure, in spite of the fact that I had a history of heart disease and that on both sides of my family, my relatives have died from heart disease. So my blood pressure, 2 weeks after I begged for it to be taken, was 200 over 100. And when I asked the guard, I said, is it time? I have a problem. I could go into cardiac arrest. He laughed, and he said, we get $75,000 on a life insurance policy if you die in prison. What you can't understand and what the rules will never show you is when you have people in a position of power with people who are not in a position of power, people abuse the power. It's historically correct. It's everywhere. So when I was given my first roll of toilet paper and I asked for a second one, the guard looked at me and said, wipe yourself. I'm a human being. I'm 64 years old. That's not an answer. But that's the things you don't see in your rules and the torture that you don't understand. The list of what I can tell you is long. I heard 60 women screaming 24 hours a day, get me the fuck out of here, and it wasn't done together. So all it was loud noise. Many women tried to commit suicide. I heard them die, those who were successful. And frankly, I didn't want to kill myself, but because of being in solitary, I looked up at God and I said, I've had a good life. It would be okay with me if I didn't wake up tomorrow. And the truth was, I didn't want to wake up. I could not take what was being done to me. And it's not only 16 and 17 and 18-year-olds who suffer. I'm 64 years old. I'm a senior with medical issues, and you can't even begin to understand the consequences of those medical issues. I was released 5 years ago. I did not know at the time of my release that the time I spent in solitary would impact the rest of my life. A very crowded subway, an airplane, an elevator caused me to stop breathing. Small spaces cause me to suffer severe panic attacks, which leads to my hospitalization, and I've suffered numerous mini strokes. My doctor fears that the next panic attack will be my last stroke. I also can't be in a loud space because it's reminiscent of the 60 women screaming. I continue to suffer from vertigo for weeks at a time, an illness I did not have before prison, which renders me unable to leave my bed. And when you come out of prison, you're poor, and you have to leave your bed in order to pay your bills. So the consequences of your economic security and the mental illness and the physical illness that you suffer from solitary combined leads you to maybe I don't want to be here anymore. Solitary confinement is a way to permanently destroy a person's mental health if you have no concern for that human being. It's inconceivable to me that in spite of the number of people testifying about the impact of solitary, the number of printed articles detailing the horrors, the body of research showing the harm it causes, that we're even sitting here discussing it. I testified before you 4 years ago in 2015 about solitary and its impact on my life. 4 years later, nothing much has happened. There's a lot of conversations. I hold you in this oversight committee responsible for the damage done to every person placed in solitary confinement. What's it going to take for you to abolish solitary? How many more deaths, suicides, mental breakdowns will have to occur before it was eliminated? If it were up to me, I'd put you in solitary, because only one of two things can happen if you were in solitary, which is you would have to see how well your rules were working. And I wrote these notes while speaking, so bear with me. You would have to see how your rules are working, and I guarantee you, you would understand the despair we feel. And I highly recommend that you put yourselves in solitary for a week. Honestly, because I don't think you get it. I don't want your prayers and thoughts, just like whenever there's a mass shooting, I don't want to hear the prayers and thoughts for the people that died in solitary. I want you to do something. I've been here, you made a comment that we are at the beginning of the process. This process is decades late in responding. You cannot be at the beginning of the process. 4 years ago, you were at the beginning of the process. It's too late for you to be at the beginning, because history is not going to view your actions and responses kindly as more and more people like me who've been in solitary come out and talk and testify about what you allowed to happen. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.